Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you how to make a 3D paper star. This is what they will look like. And what I love about this project is it looks really complicated, but it's actually just a few steps that you're going to repeat several times, and then that creates the format of the star. The other thing that I love about it is it's a really good project for home because you only need a few materials. You will just need scissors, glue, and paper. What's really cool about this also is that you can make this out of any kind of paper that you have. You could use magazine pages, book pages, scrap mail if you have it, copy paper, scrapbook paper, cardstock, anything that's got a little bit of body to it. Tissue paper probably would be a little bit too thin for this project, but anything else that's kind of a normal weighted paper or even cardstock will work really well. So whatever you've got available to you at home. As far as the glue, what I personally really like using is the glue stick, just because it bonds much quicker and you don't have to kind of hold on to all the little joints for a long period of time. But also Elmer's glue and tacky glue will work well for this project. So whatever you have available, and you can, if you have a few of these available, you can kind of experiment with them and see what you like best. So grab your stuff and we can get started. So for today, I am going to be showing you guys how to do this with magazine pages. Again, any kind of paper you have at home will work, but this is actually what I have available, and I personally think it looks kind of the coolest with all the different textures and colors. So I will show you how to do that today. So to begin with, what you will want to do is look through, if you're using magazines, look through the magazine, and what you will want to do is look for colors and textures that you like a lot, and you'll want to make sure that you like what's on both sides of the paper because both sides are going to end up showing up in your finished project. Another thing is you might want to be mindful of if there's text on the page. I personally kind of like the way that the text combines with the colors and the textures, but if that's something that you don't want, then you will definitely want to make sure that the page you picked does not have any text on the front or on the back. So after you've selected your page, the first thing that you are going to want to do is to get rid of kind of your torn edge if you have a rough edge whenever you ripped the paper out. So I just kind of fold that over to make sure that I get as straight of a line as possible, and then I am just going to cut that off. The next thing that you are going to decide is the size of the star that you want. So if you want something that's kind of about the size of your hand, that is actually the one that we are going to make today. And so the way that I did that is I folded my magazine page into thirds. So we will open up, and then on our creases, you are just going to cut those. And for each of the stars, no matter what size you end up picking, you are going to need 6 little squares. So to get those squares, what I like to do is take one of the corners and fold it up so that this edge over here is going to meet at the top. Crease that, and then we can cut along this top edge. So then that has given us a perfect little square. So we are going to need 6 of these. So if you are choosing this size, you will end up with 4 out of one of your long strips. so we can get 4 more out of each of these. And that will actually give you 12 squares. So you would be able to make 2 stars out of this one sheet of magazine paper. Okay, so you're going to pick out, you just need 6 of these for 1 star. So you can kind of look through what you ended up with and pick out the 6 that you like. And you can set the others aside for later. Okay, so the next step is you're going to want to fold your triangles back like how you did whenever you were cutting them. And then you're going to want to do one more fold in half, so you'll end up with a little bit of a smaller triangle. Okay, so you're going to do that for each of your 6. Okay, so now you should have 6 little triangles that have kind of a flappy side. All right, so our next step is going to be to do some cuts on the paper. If you feel comfortable, you can kind of eyeball this. If you're not comfortable with doing that, then you could grab a ruler and something to mark with. And what we are going to want to do, I will draw on this first one so you can kind of see this, and I'll pick a lighter side. Okay, so we're going to want to make 4 cuts into this, and it's going to end up making 5 little slivers. So we'll always want to draw along your long edge and with the flappy side pointed towards you. So again, you can use a ruler to do this, but I'm just going to mark out so you can kind of see what I'm doing. So we'll want to go from the flappy side almost all the way to the other side, but you don't want to cut all the way through. You want to leave a little bit of a gap. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you can see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 little slivers that we will end up with after we've done our cuts. And don't worry if they're not perfectly even, that really won't show up too much in your final design. The most important thing to remember is to stop before you get all the way to the edge, and to always have your scissors cutting along the long edge of your triangle with the flappy side towards you. So what you should end up with is kind of this little wobbly sheet of folds, and when you open it up, you have this very cool like diamond sliver design. So we are going to want to do that with each of your other ones. Okay, so when you are done, you should end up with 6 little pieces that look like this. Okay, so we are ready for our gluing step. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of open these all back up to get them ready. Okay guys, so we are ready for the gluing step. One thing that I did forget to mention in the materials is you will want probably a pencil will work best. A smaller tipped pen would also work. You're going to need something that's got kind of a fine point because it's going to help us when we are gluing kind of this tiniest piece together. So you're ready for your glue, and grab a pencil if you don't have one already, which I don't, so I'm going to grab one real quick. And actually a paintbrush and a thin one would actually probably work even better because it doesn't have kind of the bevel to it, which can sometimes be a little bit wonky when you're gluing. So if you've got a paintbrush, that will be perfect. If not, a pencil will work just fine. So what we are going to start doing is gluing both of the sides together, and we're going to start in the middle. So if you're using a glue stick, what I do is kind of hold my thumb underneath it and then just kind of smash the glue on there. And if you've got kind of the purple glue, you can definitely make sure you've got some on there. And then we are going to fold that over. And then to help me kind of make sure those stick together, I am going to stick my paintbrush in there. So I'm just kind of using that to make sure I can get those sides to stick together, because that's a pretty tiny little space. Okay, so once you've got the middle glued, you are going to flip it over, and then you will do your next set. And for this one too, this set, you might also need your pencil or your paintbrush to give you some help. My paper is being a little uncooperative today. And it's also okay if they kind of overlap a little bit. Just make sure that those are glued down pretty well. If you are using Elmer's glue or tacky glue, you're probably going to have to hold your finger on that a little bit longer to get that to stick together before you move on to the next set. But once you've got them nice and stuck together, you're again going to flip it over, and you're going to do the next ones. And then flip and do the next one. And then flip one last time and do your last set. Another handy thing to have on hand, because your fingers are going to start to get a little bit tacky, and that can get a little annoying whenever you're working, because all of the paper is going to want to stick to your fingers. So something that can be kind of nice to have on hand is a damp rag or paper towel, so you can kind of clean your fingers off as you work. But what you should end up with is something like this. And now we are going to repeat that for our other ones. Okay, so also if you're going to use this to clean your hands, make sure you've got a dry side to get your fingers dried off. Otherwise, they could kind of wilt your paper a little bit. Oh, and if they ever pop apart, just add a little bit more glue and try again. Okay, so at this point you should have 6 of these. And we are ready for our final step of gluing these together into our star shape. So it's kind of best to do this 1/2 at a time. So we'll just start with 3. And the way I have found easiest to do it is to start by gluing 2 of the sides together. So we'll add a little glue here. And then we will glue these two sides together. And then we are going to glue the bottoms together. So I'm going to put a little bit of glue right here. And you can kind of line up the two bottoms together. So it should end up looking like this. And then our third piece, we'll start again with gluing this side together. And then our bottoms again. So you should end up with something like this. And we're going to set this one aside and do the same for the other three. Okay, so now you should have two halves, and now we are going to glue these together. So we are going to start again with the sides. So I'll put a little glue here, and then glue these halves together here. And then we are going to glue the middle together. So I'm going to put some glue in the middle. And then we're just going to overlapping the edges together. And then our final step is to glue our last sides together. And you should have your star. The cool thing about these is you can definitely kind of change up the size just by the size of the square that you started with. So if you want a huge star, you could actually use an entire magazine page and just fold it over. Cut off your extras. And then do 6 of these, and you would just treat these large squares just like you did our little squares for this size star. Or you can kind of experiment with anything in between. And some really cool things I've done with these, I mean, they're pretty neat just on their own, and you could hang these around your home. Or you could actually make a bunch of them and then suspend them in a mobile or create little ornaments with them. And they make perfect gifts or perfect gifts for yourself to kind of hang around and decorate your home. So I want to thank you guys so much for spending part of your day with me. I hope this was fun. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm more than happy to answer any questions, or if you get stuck anywhere. Also, we'd absolutely love to see your creations. So if you make any stars at home, please share them to our Facebook page. All right, thanks guys. Take care and be safe.